left hand on left knee, and let's just start to make some circles with those knees. So taking the knees to one another, to us, away from one another, away from you, to one another. So we're just drawing great big circles with our knees. Just getting those feet nice and active. And then changing direction with those circles. Stopping with those circles, let's allow that right knee to come up. Let's let that left foot come onto the floor. Interlace your fingers, right hand on top of left. So if you're pregnant, you want to take your knee right out to the side and the ankle can come in a little bit. If you're not pregnant, let's keep the ankle, the knee, and the hip at a nice straight line. Let's lift our elbows, and then if you want to go a little deeper, we can start to slide that left foot away from us, and let's start to point and flex that right foot. Feel like you're lifting your elbows off a table and pulling them apart. Let's point our foot. Let's draw nice big, slow circles one direction. And then nice big, slow circles the other direction. And then finishing off with a little flex, a little curl, a little point, a little flip, flex, curl, point, and flip, flex, curl, point, and flip. And just keeping that foot nice and active. Slide your hands up to your kneecap and just think about gently pushing the knee down into the hip. And almost feel like the back of the right pelvis can lift back up onto that kneecap. We're just taking a few more big breaths here. And then letting that foot come down, let the other foot come up, interlace your fingers, left hand on top of right over that left knee, shoulders relax, elbows lift, slide that right foot away from you gently. Really thinking about sitting your left butt into a chair as we're going to point and flex that left foot. Just really exploring that range of motion. And then pointing that left foot, let's draw big, slow circles one direction. And big, slow circles the other direction. And then stopping at the circles, flex your foot, hold the foot flat, curl your toes like you're holding onto a pencil, point your foot like a dancer, flip your toes back to you. Flex, curl, point, and flip, flex, curl, point, and flip to hold. Again, feel free to slide your hands up onto the kneecap and just give that knee a little bit of a push down onto the pelvis, and then think about the pelvis lifting back up towards the knee. Lift your elbows up a little bit, pull your elbows apart, and take a few deep breaths into your hip. Nice big, smooth breaths. Good, how are you doing? Letting that left foot come onto the floor. Let's roll onto our side. And let's use a block underneath our head. We'll have another block on our pelvis. So one block like a pillow underneath our head, one block behind our pelvis. Let's stack the knees and the ankles. Let's stack our hands so our palms are touching. Let's get the knees to touch. Let's get the ankles to touch. Good stuff. Relax the shoulders. And then once we know that we've got those hands stacked, we know we've got the shoulders stacked, we're going to inhale to bring that arm straight up over the shoulder. We can lift up that right leg if we want to, so that the ankle, the knee, and the hip are neutral rotation and level. And then bending at the elbow, let's see if we can grab onto that shoulder, reaching the elbow up. And let's start with some circles with the elbow without twisting. So holding onto that shoulder and just lifting that elbow right up towards the ceiling. Nice, doing our best not to twist.
Chandra.
If you want to work a little harder, pick up that top leg so the right leg is floating up at neutral rotation, ankle, knee, and hip level, feet nice and active, no wrinkles. So you can get that elbow to come in front of the chest as much as it's going behind you. So a lot of us are playing way back here and slightly twisting. So this is a circle where it's coming forward in front of the face, even towards the floor. Nice. Good. Change direction with the circles. Keep in mind, if you can't see and it's driving you crazy, just lie the other direction on your mat with your head at the other end. And then stopping with the elbow circles. Once again, bring your hands to touch. Bend your elbow so that your elbow is right over your wrist and your wrist is in your elbow crease. So you slide your top hand back until your top hand is in your elbow crease, and then you keep your elbow right over your wrist so that you know that you're not twisting. Good. We're going to exhale to draw that right leg to us, and we're going to inhale to take that right leg back. Exhale to draw that right leg towards the right rib. Inhale to take the right leg back. And I want you to think about keeping the 90-degree angle and doing your absolute best not to move the hips or the pelvis. Ankle, knee, and hip level. Beautiful. Now the next time we take that right foot back, we're going to take that right foot back as far as we can to hold. We're going to visualize that we're pushing that right foot into an imaginary wall. Keep it there. See if you can lift up the left foot with an external rotation. Remember, you can bring one foot down, you can bring the other leg back anytime you like. Now without moving the shoulder, inhale to reach your right arm up towards the sky. Keeping the hips and the shoulders stacked. Reach up as high as you can. Inhale to spread your fingers. Exhale to squeeze your hand tight. Inhale to spread. Exhale to squeeze the hand tight. Beautiful. Just focusing on your body from the inside, focusing on your breath. Good. Nice. Rob, see if you can lift that top foot up. Yeah, now go to your bottom foot, lift it up. High as you can. Yeah, there we go. Now make a fist nice and tight, keep the fist, and then we're going to screwdriver that arm inside the shoulder socket. So we're going to rotate it back and forth, keeping the wrist right over the shoulder. Good. Anytime you want to rest the legs, you can, but see what you can do. We're almost there. And then pick a rotation. It could be internal, thumb pointing down. It could be neutral, thumb pointing up, or it could be external, thumb pointing back. But don't move the wrist, and let's start with tornado arms. So gradually letting the arm circles get bigger without moving your wrist. So you're committing to not changing the rotation of your arm. Good. Gradually let those circles get bigger and bigger. And then gradually let those circles start to get smaller and smaller. Till we have teeny tiny circles. And then we're going to change directions. Circles the other way. So we got great big circles. See if you can find those feet nice and level. And then once again, gradually let those circles get smaller. So we got teeny tiny circles. And then bring that hand down, palms touch, let the legs relax. Bring that right knee forward, right? Take a couple breaths here. And then after a few breaths, see if you can lift up that right leg, straighten the right leg, kick it as high as you can, and then bring it down to the floor in front of you. And if you wanted to go deeper, you could straighten out the bottom leg. So this is where the twist is going to come in, and we're going to do the bow and arrow arm. If we're pregnant, we don't need to twist very far. We don't have to move the belly at all, but we can get this really nice IT band stretch. If it's too much, you bend the bottom leg, right? So hands are going to touch, and you're going to slide the right hand along your chest, and you're going to reach back with the elbow. If the elbow touches, great. If it doesn't, don't force it. And then you're going to draw the hand back towards the opposite palm. So inhale, slide the hand across the body. See if you get the elbow to touch, and then slide your hand away from you. Nice. The head is rolling on the block, and if you need to adjust the block, feel free to do so. We do about 5 or 6 without letting the wrist come to the floor. And if we're bringing the wrist to the floor, this part's a very important part of the recipe. The elbow has to be on the floor. If the elbow is lifting, we're not doing our shoulders or our body any favors. So if your elbow stays on the floor, you can bring your hand to the floor. If it doesn't, you don't put your hand on the floor, and then you bring it back. Good. Otherwise, you just keep your hand on your chest as you continue to kind of thread this bow. Let's do 3 more back and forth. So we call this the tanning twist. I find it's amazing, not only for the IT ends, but for getting into that space right between the shoulder blades. And on your next few, deciding to stay open at whatever depth you fancy, but making sure that if your hand's on the floor, Chris, your elbow is also on the floor. So there's no hand on the floor with a floating elbow. Hand can stay on the chest. Those of us with the elbows on the floor, we can pick up our ribs, kind of twist ourselves a little deeper, and then come into extended arms. If it feels tight on your belly, if you're pregnant, you can just drop that right leg away from the belly a little bit. And then big, beautiful breaths here. So do you feel how that elbow's floating? So we don't want to have the hand extended if the elbow's floating. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The gaze is straight up at the sky. Everybody's breathing. You can think about pulling the elbows apart if you like. Feet nice and active. And this is a great one fascially just to hang out and hold. Find your breath here. Let's take 10 more smooth, even, deep breaths, just like that. When those 10 breaths are complete, you're going to take your top hand towards your bottom hand. You're going to bend your bottom knee. You're going to bend your top leg. You're just going to hang out there for a moment. Find your breath. Then you can either roll over onto your other side, or if you want to still stay at the angle, you can just bring yourself up and come down onto the other shoulder. So depending on your view and how you want to do it, you just roll off to the other side, or you bring yourself up and over to the other side. So we want to have one block on our pelvis, right? And you can always stagger with your neighbors if you're feeling jammed. One person a little bit up on the mat, one person a little low on the mat is a good one. So head on a block, bottom arm straight, wrist, elbow, shoulder nice and level. We start with our thighs at a 90-degree angle, right? And then we're going to have our hands stacking just to make sure our shoulders are stacked. Legs are to 90, ankles, knees are stacked. If we want to lift up that top leg and hold it at that neutral rotation for as long as we like, feel free. We're going to lift that left arm up without twisting, so don't allow your left shoulder to go back. Really be mindful of that. Bend your elbow right over your shoulder, take your fingers, hold onto your shoulder, and without your back moving, really honor the stillness of the back. Start to make circles with your elbows, really exploring that range of motion. I like to pretend that my elbow is made of helium and it's being lifted up out of my body as I draw these big circles. Right? I want to try and eliminate as many wrinkles in my ankle as possible, keeping those feet nice and active. Right, let's change direction with those circles. And just opening up that shoulder so you can breathe into that space. stopping with those circles, let's get those hands to touch. So the palms are going to touch so you know that your shoulders are stacked. Then you're going to keep those shoulders stacked. You're going to slide your top hand back until the palm of the hand can rest at the elbow crease. And then you're going to try and keep your top elbow on top of that wrist. Exhale to draw that top leg towards your rib cage. Inhale to take it away. Again, 0 rotation. So the ankle, the knee, and the hip are stacked and tracking the hip's height. Good. No wrinkles in the ankles. And just keep breathing here. As you take it back, really think about lengthening your quad away from your hip flexor to free up the hip and the psoas. It also helps to free up the knee. Next time we take the leg back, we take it back to hold. We visualize a wall behind us and we're going to push our foot into that wall. And then we see about lifting up the front foot as high as we can. No wrinkles in the ankles, right? And we can rest whenever we want to rest. We hold this as long as we want to hold it. So it's external in the right hip, neutral in the left hip. Inhale to bring that top arm up. I should say bottom hip, top hip, but you get the gist. Inhale to spread your fingers. Exhale to squeeze your hand nice and tight. Inhale to spread. Exhale to squeeze. Feel free to alternate whether the thumb's on the inside or the outside of the grip. Beautiful. Everybody's breathing. Nice. Again, feel like that arm is being lifted out of the shoulder socket and there's absolutely no twisting. See if you can use your peripheral vision to keep an eye on your hand. Good. And then next time you make a fist, keep a fist, and you're going to screwdriver that arm in the shoulder socket. And so we really want to memorize what a shoulder's height is, so that we're not above the shoulder, below the shoulder, behind the shoulder is a popular one. Everybody looks great. And then mimic the rotation you did on the other side. So whatever direction your thumb pointed on the other side, see if you can do it on this side, and then start with small circles. Listening to your body, not allowing the fist to rotate, gradually letting those circles get bigger and bigger. Again, see if you can lift that bottom ankle up. It's getting tired. Rest only if you need to. So you got your biggest circles, and then gradually let those circles get smaller. Use your arm that's on the floor and really press it into the earth, particularly the wrist. See if you can get the wrist that's really slamming into the floor. Tiny, tiny circles, and then change direction with the circles, starting small, and then gradually let those circles get bigger and bigger. And then once again, gradually let those circles get smaller. Until you got teeny tiny circles. And then let your hand come down to touch. Let that right leg come down. Let that left leg come around to meet it. Let the hip relax. Big, beautiful breaths. Palms touching so you know your shoulders are stacked. Really sitting that top butt into a chair so you're trying to keep your hips level and the waist on the bottom side. Pick up that top leg, straighten it. Bring it up as high as you can comfortably, place it on the floor, but keep your foot super active. And then if you want to go deeper, you straighten the bottom leg away from you as if you were going to push it towards the end of your mat. Nice. So basically this is an IT band stretch, an intense leg stretch on our side, which is lovely, right? Nice and passive, but as long as those feet are active, very, very effective. We're then going to bow and arrow the arms. So the top hand stays on the body. You may have to adjust your block. We're going to roll onto the back of the skull, but not further. We're going to bring the elbow towards the earth and then straight back again. Remembering we always do at least 5 or 6 before we add the hand movement, and we only add the hand movement if we are physically able to keep the elbow touching the earth. A floating elbow and a hand on the floor is not our shoulder's best friend, right? Open and close. Do just 5 or 6, and then you can add your hand if that's what your body is choosing to do. roll onto the back of the skull. It's like a quarter turn of the neck. You turn to look at the hand, and the hand sort of follows. The nose goes up to the ceiling, and then the nose goes back towards the bottom hand. The next time you open up to stay open. Nose and gazes towards the sky. And again, only if the elbow is touching the floor is your other hand on the floor. Otherwise, you're pulling the elbows apart, but one hand stays on the chest. Good. And then just breathing into this space. Big, beautiful breaths. Just really focusing on where you feel the stretch the most. If there's a part of your body where you're like, okay, yeah, I feel it there, use your mind, really focus on that spot and take some big, beautiful breaths and see if you can release into that area. Keeping those feet active will help to release, pushing into the elbows, pushing into the hands, whether they're on the floor or not, and pulling them away from one another will also help to release. If your elbows are on the floor, you can always pick up your ribs and move the twist a little deeper through the torso. Let's take 10 more big, beautiful breaths here. When those 10 breaths are complete, the top hand is going to slide towards the bottom hand, the bottom leg bends, the top leg bends. Give yourself a moment here just to relax and find your breath. Big, beautiful breaths. And then when you're ready, we're going to push ourselves up. We're going to take our 2 blocks and we're going to put them underneath our hamstrings. So we're going to go as wide as we can comfortably with our legs, okay? So if we're, quite flexible, we can go a little bit wider than a 90. 90 is pretty optimum for movement. And then I want you to look at your blocks, and this is an important cue. So your block is not like this, okay? Your block is at an angle so that our hamstring is not going to be on a tabletop. It's going to be on a slide. So we should not have our block straight because then you're going to get the edge of the block digging into our hamstring and it won't release. So I've got that at an angle so that my thigh, the back of my thigh, is going to be level with the block. So it's like the whole top of the block is on the leg and not just the edge of the block. It makes a big difference. Hands behind us, shoulders back, heart center lifts. See if you can lift up one leg, bring it back down, lift up the other leg, bring it back down. And so we want to use the quads pushing into the block to facilitate the lift, and we want to be on the center of our sit bones. So you know how you sit like this 90% of your day? I want you to find the center of your sit bones, and I want you to get those shoulder heads back, right? Excellent. Back and forth, nice. And then we're going to lift that right leg, and we're going to hold that right leg up, and we're just going to point and flex. So this is my favorite groin release. And I mean, I can go like this, no problem, right? Like a pancake. I do not get any groin release, but when I do the forward fold on the blocks, brilliant groin release. Particularly as we age, women get a little bit tight in that area. I'm sure men do too, but I'm not an older man.
What are you looking at me for?
Then I got right here, we're doing. And then point your foot and draw big slow circles. 23 doesn't count. Big slow circles with your foot. So again, we're engaging the quad, legs are nice and active, opposite heel is digging in. Beautiful, watch those shoulders, get those shoulders back if you can, 10, get that chest lift. Good, change direction with your circles. So you can keep the weight even in your butt. There's a strong tendency to sit into one booty, don't do that. Get that lift in the chest. Excellent. And then we're going to flex the foot, sole the foot flat. We're going to curl the toes like we're holding onto a pencil. We're going to point the foot like a dancer. We're going to flip just the toes back to us like Barbie. Flex, curl, point, and flip. Flex, curl, point, and flip to hold. Keep your Barbie foot and just hold it. You can bring it down if you want, but see what you can do. Maybe the left hand can come in front of you, the right hand behind you, just a gentle twist, and maybe you can fold over that leg. Maybe not, just see how it goes. Nice. Just go 5 more breaths here. Watch if the other leg isn't rotating one way or another, but it's staying nice and centered. Good. And then nice inhale to come up, back to fingers behind you, shoulders back, right heel comes down, left heel comes up, dig the right heel in, pull it towards your butt, flex and point the left foot. So again, that strong tendency to hunch, we're avoiding it. We want to really think, lift up into my sternum, crutches in my armpits, lifting up my shoulders, shoulders relaxing, back of the armpit sliding towards the front of the armpits with this openness in our collarbones. And our neck is going to sing us a song of happiness. Point your foot, draw big slow circles one way. Gorgeous. Keep on breathing. And then big slow circles the other way. And then a little flex, curl, point, and flip. Flex, curl, point, and flip. Flex, curl, point, and flip. To hold, beautiful. Feel like someone's hand is lifting your heel up. Think about lifting your hamstring, the back of the leg off the block, which will help. Maybe you twist a little bit to one side. Maybe you come down over that leg. But really think, shoulder heads back. I'm not going to hunch just because I'm forward folding. Beautiful. Everybody's breathing. Just go 5 more breaths here. When those 5 breaths are complete, you're going to come up, back to center, shoulders behind you, dig the heels in, pull the heels to you, and just see if you might like to forward fold. If you're already getting enough of a stretch back here, by all means, stay back there. A little bit of hunching is fine, right? But we want to see if we can keep ourselves really losing it in the neck. Come to a place where you can push your heels into the floor and feel like you want to lift the backs of the quads, the hamstrings off the blocks, so that I can really easily slide your block in and out. That's how much you're trying to lift the backs of the legs. Nice. And then I like to think about really rooting my hips and pulling those armpits out of my hips so I get that gorgeous groin release. Is anybody not getting a groin release? Yay! Every second a pregnant lady spends doing this, you're going to be very happy you did. All I'm going to say about that. I used to watch TV like this when I was pregnant, because I was told, because Hudson was like back labor, whatever, twisted, and I was told by my midwife that wide-legged forward folds would flip her. Full of shit, apparently, because I was doing it like watching TV, Grey's Anatomy, obsessively, for like 8 hours a day. But I'm sure it helped in some way, it just didn't, I still had back labor. Bless. That was fun. Keep on breathing. Only in those last 2 weeks were you allowed to just lay in your bed and watch Grey's Anatomy for 8 hours a day. I might have done a few other things, but I watched a lot of Grey's Anatomy. I did not want to know. See if you can lift your feet. And if you don't, you don't. quads push down, hamstrings lift to lift those feet. See if you can do it without changing your back. Nice. Let's just go 5 more breaths here. Jewel, this is all training for Tadibasana, firefly. Yeah. Heels come down, lift your chest, and just for fun, if you want to put the legs down and just come forward, you can, just to feel the difference, right? And just take it to wherever you want, and just find your breath there. The forehead resting on something is sometimes really nice. We want to keep that 0 rotation, heels centered. This one can be good too, where you get that traction of the neck. Now that we don't have the blocks, they're teaching us that reaction between the quads and the hamstrings and the blocks. Just imagine they're there and see if you can find those muscles even though the blocks are gone. Let's go 10 more breaths here. And then when those 10 breaths are complete, we're going to bring ourselves up. Let's put the left hand in front of us, the right hand behind us, shoulders back. And we're just going to see if we can lift and drop the right foot. And if we can't, don't worry about it. Just see what you can do. If you go more narrow, it's going to be easier, right? Find that Barbie foot if you can, and then come over to the other side and just see if you can lift and drop. Lift and drop. And again, you can go a little closer together, and that'll make it easier. Nice, guys. Good. Pick up the backs of the knees, bring your knees in. We're going to bring our arms on the inside of the legs. We're going to take the toes in yogi grip. So the peace fingers come between the big toe, second toe. Thumbs pull, feet push, lift your chest. The feet don't have to come off the floor here, but see if you can get the feet a little bit wide. Think about the knees pushing in. So the wider the feet, the nicer this pose is going to be, so that one day our ankles and our knees are stacked. Think about the knees squeezing in like a thigh master. Pull with your toes, get that lift in the chest, and you can keep your heels on the floor, or you can lift your heels. But try not to change that, right? Try and keep that lift in the chest, and then if you're with me, you can just kick it out into a wide-legged floating boat, right? Otherwise, we're just here, we're getting the lift in the chest, the thighs are squeezing, which is great, back straight, right? Or we can see if we can do a little up and down, like we're doing a shin lift. We could do an alternate shin lift, but really trying to keep this spine stable and being perfectly fine with where we're at. Good, we've got 3 more minutes to play. That's a good idea. You can do a shin lift with your heels on the floor. One heel stays, other heel lifts. That's a good variation. And then you can either stay in a happy baby, which is really nice, pulling back as you push the feet forward, or you could do with a V, whatever your preference. We're just going to hold here or anywhere in between. We're just going to hold it. Fix your gaze on one point. Nice, big, beautiful breaths. Heart center lifts. So trying to get into that hunch here. Pull those arm bones in. Get the lift in the chest. That injection of the arm bones frees up the neck so much, and our neck will be so grateful we learned how to do that. Right, so we drive our car like this, we do the computer like this, or we could drive our car and do the computer like this, right? Letting our neck be a neck. Let's go 10 more breaths here. Yay, we're so glad Michelle's back. And when those 10 breaths are complete, bend your knees, bring those soles of the feet together. We're looking for a square here versus a diamond. Big inhale to lift and lengthen, exhale to fold over. And just like before, if you're pregnant, we don't want want any weight on the inner heels, right? But if you're not pregnant, it's lovely to have weight on the inner heels. Find a variation where you can rest your forehead. I love, if I'm not pregnant, elbows on the inner heels is nice. Or whatever works for you. And then really focus on your body from the inside. Focus on your breath. With each inhale, allow your body to completely expand. And with each exhale, use your abdominal and intercostal muscles to kind of squeeze out the carbon dioxide. Let's take 10 more breaths here, maybe choosing to plant a mantra, an intention with each and every one of those breaths. Hey Chandra, can you get off the camera shot, baby? On your mat, please. On your mat. Oh, I'm sorry. Out of the shot. You're blocking the view. Oh, you're out of practice. Just like video. We're back here, videoing again. Breath mantra, mantra breath. When those 10 breaths are complete, bringing yourself up, draw those knees together. And we can either roll over our toes onto our knees, or we can take our feet out to one side, roll over our side, and onto our knees that way. We're going to have our 2 blocks underneath our hands. Relax the shoulders. Knees and feet are hips distance apart. And so as we get bigger with pregnancy, we just kind of bring the blocks back to us, and we take the blocks, say, to the right side to step that right foot forward. And we play it just a little bit wider, right? But the lunges are one of the best things that you can do when you're pregnant, right? Otherwise, you just have the blocks at shoulders distance, you step it forward like you're not pregnant. We find our right shin at a 90, and then we're going to walk that left knee back as far as we can comfortably. To make it more comfortable, we're just going to pick up the knee, and we're going to put the knee on a block because it feels really good. And then we're going to take our right elbow and put it onto our right knee. We're going to have the back toes tucked, and we're going to lean into the hips on this first one. So just kind of leaning into the hips, back toe is tucked. We're getting a nice grip on that back toe. I like to take my block from my left hand and put it in front of my right knee, or sorry, left knee, so it's a hips distance. And then we're just going to see if we can pick up that back foot for the psoas stretch. It's also an amazing quad release. The more we sit the right booty down, the deeper the stretch will be. Good stuff. And so if I was pregnant, I would do the twist. I'm probably getting enough here, right? If I'm not pregnant, I could put my hand on my knee, turn and look behind me. I could kind of sweep my arm around, like I'm cleaning the stages of the clock, grab my ankle, and kick, or not. Either or. You grab your toes or your ankle, whatever you got. And then you start by kicking. You pull in your belly. You look at your right knee and make sure your knee is still over your ankle, and you turn and look behind you. And you kick and pull, kick and pull, kick and pull. Good. And maybe you can start to pull the heel towards your butt if you fancy. Right, we don't want to feel the knee at all. Excellent. Big, beautiful breaths. Trying to keep those hips stacked. If you want to pick up that front heel, you can go for it. Right, just see if you can float that front heel up off the floor. Someone in retreat would use the word spicy every time I did something hard. I'm like, oh my god, another food analogy. We'll be going for Thai food after, right? Something spicy. Drop that right heel down, let that left foot come down. Bring your right elbow over that right knee, tuck the back toe, and just pick up that back knee just to stretch it out. Good. And then grab your block. If you can, place it down. And you can either step back like a mountain climber if your shoulders are up for it, or you can drop the knee, step the foot back, and come through on the other side. So again, if it's starting to get bulky, you can take your block to the right and closer to the thigh to sweep the leg around. We walk the right knee back, ankle, knee, and hip are stacked. Take your block, place it underneath the back of the right knee. Right hand is in line with the right block, right knee. Make sure your left shin is at a 90, square your shoulders. And then just see if you can pick up that back foot, keeping it nice and active, pulling in your femurs. And so we know we're twisting the pelvis. Our foot is like a barometer, right? So if it's coming straight up, we've got a pretty good idea that we're keeping our pelvis quite level. Okay, then maybe the hand comes onto the knee, right? We could do that pregnant, but we wouldn't go any further. Maybe you twist, you reach back, you grab the foot, toes or ankle, whatever works, and then you start by kicking. And that sweeping the arm is nice too. Good. Breathing here. Once you find that space in the low back and the psoas and quad release, then you can start to pull the heel towards the butt. But I always like to look forward and make sure my knee is right over my ankle, and then maybe you can add a little kick and spice by picking up that front heel. Good. And everybody's breathing. Big, beautiful breaths. Really taking that left butt and moving it down towards the floor as you pull that right femur in. Pulling your belly to get that twist. Just go 5 more breaths. And when that's complete, bring that back foot down. Elbow onto the knee to lift up the back knee. See if you can reach back, grab the block. And either drop down onto the knee to step it back, or you could bang out a couple mountain climbers. And in a mountain climber, the spine and the shoulders don't move. Right? So if you're all over the place, you want to do less and try and keep the pelvis stable. And the next time we step it back, when we're done, we can do it as long as you like. We can do a child's pose, a puppy pose, or a down dog pose, whatever you prefer. Focus on your body from the inside. Focus on your breath. Let's go 10 more breaths here. Maybe matching a mantra to every one of those 10 breaths. When those 10 breaths are complete, we're going to come back down into tabletop position, grab our blocks. Let's step that right foot forward. Let's find that right shin at a 90. Let's walk that left knee back. Pull in those femurs. You can see if you can lift that back foot to make sure you're not twisting. And then just see how low you might like to go on your hands. Maybe you want to go a little bit lower. with me. We're going to point that back foot and we're going to lift that back ankle up. So it's like an upward dog foot, just to really find the activity in that back foot so that our knees don't get grumpy. Right? So I'm going to lift up my back ankle. I'm pushing down into my foot and I have to think about lifting my knee. That's the action. If we feel our knee, then you want to put more height underneath your hands and more comfiness underneath your knee. Does anyone need another mat, or are we feeling good on our knees? Good. Pull those femurs in, push into your foot, relax your shoulder. Those are cute. Cute. Nice. Let's bring that foot forward now that you're back into it so that shin's at a 90. Perfect. We're just going to lean into those hips. So we want this shin to be at a 90. Right? If we're very flexible and our body's trained, then we can go a little further, but our knees really prefer it if that shin's at a 90. Pull in those femurs. Good, just getting that nice groin release. Big, beautiful breaths. Maybe this is enough. Maybe we pick up that back foot. Right? Just finding your breath. Maybe you can come up if the balance is there. Maybe you can bring your arms up, with or without the foot lift. Either or works. Right. Nice, Ashley. And then you want to think of those elbows. You want to reach with those elbows. You bring the hands into prayer. You bend at the elbows. You start to take the chest and the shoulders back towards that foot. Closer than you think. Pull in those femurs. Yeah. Nice. Let's go 5 more breaths here. And then when those 5 breaths are complete, you're going to bring your arms down, you're going to bring your foot down, put your hands on whatever height you need, lift up that back knee and just hold. So again, really deep groins. Great psoas stretch, keeping that shin at a 90, taking whatever height you need under your hands, but not more than you need. Get the whole palm down, get your fingers down. Let's go 5 more breaths. When those 5 breaths are complete, drop down onto the knee, add more height if you need it, step the right foot back. Step the left foot forward. Find that left shin at a 90. Walk that right knee back as much as is comfortable, point the right foot, lift up the right ankle. And then without twisting the pelvis, you can always check by bending your knee. Yeah, then you just go as low as you can go comfortably, without losing the shin. Circumference of palm needs to be down, and all the fingers need to be breathing like a down dog. Because otherwise, we're just not getting as much bang for our buck, and nobody has time to do yoga all day long. And tight wrists are the nemesis to many happy things, like necks and shoulders and elbows. So, like if we're doing it, we may as well get more out of it. So use whatever height you need to so that the entire circumference of the palm is down, but don't take more height than you need. And then just lean into those hips, push into that back foot. Maybe you can even lift up that back knee a couple times just to get that action. Add something under the knee if you need to. And then just hang out and breathe. So if you get those, some people have tight groins so that when they're going downhill, like they do hiking or whatever, they get a little tug into the bottom of their knee. These are the stretches for that. Just breathing here. Maybe pick up that back knee. Maybe you pull in those femurs and you start to come up. Maybe you bring the arms up, right? Again, just going where you can. Maybe the hands pray, maybe you find the elbows, and then you just kind of move the elbows back till eventually you grab that foot. It's like someone's pushing your elbows back, Ashley. Yeah. Nice. Everybody's breathing. Wherever we're at. breaths here. Nice, 10 minutes coming. And then when that's done, you're going to bring that back foot down. You're going to try and keep your hands where they are, and you're going to lift up that back knee. Try to keep your shin at a 90 if you can. Let's go 5 more breaths. 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. And then drop down onto that knee, step that front foot back. Child's pose, puppy pose, or down dog pose, whatever you prefer. Really finding your fingers, finding your palms, finding your breath, and then adding a mantra. Let's take 10 more breaths here. When those 10 breaths are complete, let's everybody meet in a child's pose. Relax the shoulders, find your breath. Eventually, bringing your hands underneath your shoulders, pushing yourself up. If you've got a stick handy, grab a stick. I know a lot of us grabbed a stick. If you don't have a stick, don't worry about it. Just have your palms down. Right, but if you've got a stick, you may as well use it. Wrist, elbow, shoulder in a nice straight line. Elbows are right underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, toes tucked under. So again, if you don't have a stick, palms down works great. We're only going to do this one pose with the stick, so. We're then going to exhale to curl the spine, thinking angry kitty. We're going to inhale, shoulders back, sit bones lift, gazing forward. Exhale to curl the spine, thinking angry kitty. Try and keep your elbows right underneath your shoulders. Inhale, shoulders back, sit bones lift, gazing up. So just back and forth with your spine, with the elbows on the floor. Good. And letting the head go with the spine. Nice. See if you can keep yourself from getting those kind of like angel wings between your shoulder blades. So you're pushing the elbows into the floor just right. And then stopping with a nice straight spine. Get your elbows right over your shoulders. Then you have a couple of those shoulder push-ups where we move the humerus bone into the shoulder and out of the shoulder. Like a stick into a marshmallow and out of a marshmallow. And then find those arm bones just right where you can look left, where you can look right, where you can look forward and back, and the neck feels good. Then lift your ribs. If you're not pregnant, really lift your belly. And then you can either keep your knees on the floor, or you can lift your knees a little bit without your shoulders moving forward or back. So you want to keep those shoulders nice and stable. You just want to lift your knees a little bit. If that feels like too much, you just keep your knees on the floor. Just breathing here. Good. And then you're going to bring your knees onto the floor. And then you're going to keep those shoulders and you're going to lift your elbows. So your elbows are just going to lift a tiny little bit off the floor, as little as possible. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Catherine, do you mind just taking your elbows just a tiny little bit wider? Right now they're here, and if you go a little wider, you're going to feel it's a little bit easier. Yeah, there you go. Nice. And then we're going to bring our elbows onto the floor, but we're going to think about lifting the elbows as we push the elbows down. We're going to lift our knees. Maybe we straighten our legs. Maybe we walk the feet in. But we try not to let the shoulders change. We're going to hold this as long as we want to. And remember, we can always come onto the knees whenever we like. When we're done holding it, we're going to take child's pose. But really listen to your body and hold it if you can. If you feel up for doing your leg lift, then don't move the pelvis and float one leg up into the air. Count how long you hold it, and then float the other leg up. Just holding it up. When you're done, child's pose. Nice, Ashley, that pelvis is rocking it. You got 5 more breaths here to even out your sides, and then we'll all meet in child's pose. Nice, Chris. Watch the rotation. Think internal to keep it neutral with that leg. Beautiful. This is the year I think we're going to focus on proprioception. So lots of balance. Maybe some standing on our heads for some of us. I think Ashley and Chris are going to get it this year. Just saying. Let's go 10 more breaths. Matching a mantra to each and every one of those 10 breaths. When those 10 breaths are complete, we're going to bring ourselves up and we're going to come into a squat. That squat can be on height or not on height, whatever you fancy. But we want to have our feet at a V. So it's not a straight foot squat. So if you're squatting on height, we want to have our feet like a V, and we want to have our knees tracking our feet, right? And if we can do that without the height, we do that without the height. Sometimes it's kind of fun or nice to like give yourself a little bit of height. Right? Roll up the mat. Or put a blanket underneath your heels. But making sure that we're not ducking onto the big toe edge of the foot. Okay? And then we're going to just lift just the right heel up. And just notice what that does to your left groin. You can do this on the height or not on the height. And you can have your elbows on your knees or your hands on the floor, whatever you fancy. So just the right heel is going to lift. Good. And then right heel is going to come down, and just the left heel is going to lift. Good. And then that heel comes down, and then we just go right heel up, left heel up. Good. Right heel up, left heel up. I love this second trimester and the third trimester, but some people do on height. It's just such a nice release. And some people get problems with their feet in pregnancy, so it's a nice one to kind of work on. So if you want to add a little something to this, which is going to make it a little deeper, right heel comes up, you lift the sole of the left foot. It's like you're opening a book on the left foot, and the right heel comes up. It's like a Baddha Konasana foot. Good. And then sole of the left foot comes down, right heel comes down, left heel lifts, sole of right lifts. Good. And then you go as slow or as fast as you want to go. And as you do this, I like to visualize that I've got a stick, so watch those ankles. You see how you're really buckling into your ankles? We don't want any buckling ankles, right? You see the ankles stay rock solid, stable. We're not like just letting them go Willy Wonka. Good. Back and forth. And you can bind it if you want to bind it, right? If you're a binder, bind it. And that makes you go where you don't want to go. And then if you're binding, you bind the other side so that you're even. And then both feet level, hands out in front, find your fingers, find your palms, pull in your belly, and then just see if you can come straight up into a standing forward fold. Walk your feet out, bend your knees, bring your hands onto your knees, and up you come. Then we're going to look at our feet. We're going to take them as wide as is comfortable, and we want the baby toe edge of the foot straight, right? So you can be off your mat, or you can twist, whatever works. Baby toe edge of the foot is straight. If you had sciatica, you pigeon a little bit more. That's that pain that runs from your sit bone down the back of the leg. Right, so a little bit pigeon-toed. You're going to bend your knees, take your hands onto your knees, you're going to take your butt back, relax the shoulders. Good. So again, there's this tendency to let the knees come forward. I want you to take your knees and your butt back. If you're pregnant, you can just let the belly be heavy, but otherwise lift your belly. Everybody lifts their ribs. So you can lift up your toes, and then you can come down, keeping that nice straight spine. Maybe your hands come to the shins or the ankles. You keep that nice straight spine, and then you slide your booty up an imaginary wall without changing the back. Relax the shoulders away from the ears. So if you're moving the back like that, you want to try and bend your knees, because this twisting lift with straight legs, not the best option. Makes sense? Definitely do what you need to do, but be sure you bend your knees anytime you lift your upper body. Let's go 10 more breaths here. And eventually we could bend the elbows and let the head hang if we wanted to. We could have our elbows on our knees, but really taking those butts back. And then when those 10 breaths are complete, hands on the knees, bend the knees as much as you can, come up with a nice straight back, heel toe those feet in, palms forward, shoulders back, close your eyes, and just find your breath. Big, beautiful breaths. So we can stick with that. That's such a good pose, especially for you girls, right? If you build this strength when you're in labor, you're going to be so happy you have it, right? Because it takes the weight off the low back. Third trimester, you're going to be so grateful you built this strength to hold it, right? So you guys can practice that. If we want to go deeper, and if you girls want to try an arm balance, Chris, you want to try an arm balance, have your blocks handy. So put your blocks, if you need them, you might not behind your heels, okay? Take your feet as wide as you kind of want, right? Take your hands onto your knees, take your butt back. Think about capping the shoulders. Good. Think about moving your butt away from you, and then just kind of come down to wherever you come down. Right, and you just hang out. When you need to come up, you make sure you bend your knees a lot to come up. Anytime we're lifting our upper body, we want to have those legs bent. It's like if you went down to pick up a heavy box or a human, you would bend your knees and keep your back straight. Same goes, okay? Those of us that are going to do the arm balance, bring your feet in a little bit. You take your right hand to your right calf and you push your right shoulder behind your right knee. You take your left hand to your left calf and you push both calves forward. You can have the blocks, or you can put your hands on the floor and you literally just sit down. Just sit down. Yeah, and then you walk your feet towards one another. Right foot crosses left. You lift the feet. I'm really making sure my palms are down, and then I'm going to find my Tadasana if I want to. We've done all the things. cross the other foot, lift the butt, lift the feet. You got this, Ashley. You just gotta sit down. There you go. Squeeze those thighs, walk the feet, cross the feet. So you wanna be careful, right? Because your hands are a little too narrow there, right? So be mindful. There you go, cross those feet. Now Ashley, lift up your feet. Yeah, and then you find this rotation and you kick out. Beautiful. Wider with your hands. So hands at the bottom of your shoulders distance, Chris. Yeah, there you go. And then you gotta sit down, Chris. Sit, 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 sit. Good, now just lift one foot. Lift the other foot. And then when you're done, everybody comes up and we'll meet in standing. Play as much as you want to play. We'll do one more, this third time lucky. Slow down your heart rate by slowing down your breath. Ashley, I think you don't need the blocks. I think you'll find it easier because you're flexible enough. Yeah, I find it, the blocks are okay if your arms aren't there, but I don't think you need them. So again, hands on knees, and you can go as wide as you want. You could be a little more narrow if you want. You take the butt back, you relax the shoulders, right? Elbows are a nice option, right? If you're going for the full pose, you take one arm back behind the calf and you push the calf forward. You take the other hand back, you push the calf forward. You get your hands either onto blocks or onto the floor. You really make sure they're shoulders distance apart. And then you just sit down. And then you want to think about crossing those feet. You lift your butt and your feet, and then you find your Tadasana feet, your Barbie feet to kick out. You do the opposite, crossing and lift, and then kick out. So with those wrists, you don't want to be doing anything, right? So your fingers have to be forward, and really do your best not to push too hard. Yeah, like this isn't a good rotation because that's going to be internal. Yeah, there you go.
Is it okay to have the fingers off the side?
That's what I want you to do, exactly. Because what that does is it makes you actually use your hands. So if you're not accustomed to being on your hands, then you'll actually use your fingers, right? Yeah. There you go, Ashley. Now lift one foot. There you go. And then when it's done, hands on the knees, bend the knees. Nice inhale to come all the way up. Beautiful. Slow down your heart rate by slowing down your breath. Was it easier with your hands on the floor? Yeah. And let's just bring the backs of the hands to touch, elbows nice and high, just gently pushing the backs of the hands, and let's do circles with our wrists as we inhale to lift our toes up and exhale to bring our toes down. So essentially we're just doing toes up, toes down. Always when we're standing, those feet are hips distance apart and the feet are pointing the same direction as the knees. Toes up, toes down, a little bend in the knees. Change direction with the wrist circles. And then bring your toes down, keep your big toes down, lift all the other toes up. So the big toes are gonna stay down, but all the other toes are gonna lift up. Nice, see if you can keep those feet straight if you can. See how they're like this? Straight, hips distance. Nice. And then stopping with the circles, bring your hands back, bring all the other toes down, lift just the big toes up. It's like the big toes are hitchhiking, all the other toes are down. Good, and then big toes down, all the other toes up. If you can't do it, don't worry, but if you don't try, you'll never get it, right? And then all the other toes down, big toes up. Good. Is one foot more dominant than the other? Good information. Big toes down, all the other toes up. Little bend in the knees. And then from here, let's come down into tabletop. So get your feet level, hands on the knees, butt back. You start to come down down by walking those hands forward. And then we can either roll over into a squat, or we can take our feet out to one side, our hands out to the other side to sweep the legs through. We'll take our hands behind the thighs, make a nice C, come down one disc, one vertebra at a time, nice and slow. We're going to let those knees touch. We're going to take the feet apart. Baby toe edge of the foot is nice and straight. One hand belly, sort of rib area, one hand rib chest area, elbows on the floor. And just close your eyes and find your breath. Big inhales, big exhales. So somewhere between second and third trimester, we start to take Shavasana on our side. Do you guys want to, if you're ready for that, let me ready for that? Yeah. You guys ready for that? Yeah. Ditto. It's the best. So we put one between the knees and the ankle and one underneath your head. Just really finding those nice waves of breath up and down the spine. Maybe taking 10 more breaths and then making your way into Shavasana. So it would be one bolster knees and ankles and one underneath the head. Sometimes this is really nice. I slept with bolsters in my third trimester. I was like, bring on the bolsters. So when that feels complete for you, making your way into Shavasana. If you feel like you need a little back bend, if you were doing some like Tadibhasanas, feel free to do a little bridge, which would be knees and feet at hips distance apart. Just a little bridge. If you felt like that was a lot of punchy forward folding, and then Shavasana. Otherwise, just go right into it. And then once you find your position, closing your eyes, being as still as you can be. you're ready, very slowly, gently begin to wake up your body from the inside, just by deepening your breath. And wiggling your fingers and your toes. Nice big inhale to stretch your arms. And exhale to let your arms fall down heavy as you start to bend your knees and walk your feet towards your seat. And with an exhale, we're going to roll off to the right. Nice inhale and arm strength to push yourself up. Let's make our way to a comfortable seated position. Hands in namaskara. We're going to end with a humming om before we dedicate the merit of our practice. May we use this class to find clarity of thought, purity of speech, freedom of movement, and openness of heart. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your practice. Namaste. Namaste, everyone. Thanks for coming. It's so good to be back. Chandra was like, by the last week of the retreat at home, she was like, let's go. I'm getting bored of this. I need more people. I need more adoring fans. Right, honey? Let's bring on the humans. I got video and pictures. Bye, Marlene. Bye, Elisa. Nice to see you. Have a great week. I'm going to get her to bring it on Mondays. It's such good training for the puppy.